Right. It's,
Brilliant. I think Sharon has also just joined. Hi, Sharon. How are you?
how's that
Oh,
looking?
you're
I'm
on mute.
okay.
You
I'm
look
all right.
your hair's even brighter than when we saw you on the course in
Keep
November.
changing it. I get bored.
Um, just for everybody's benefit, Sharon actually came on our course in November. So if you want to hear, from the horse's mouth, as it were, for somebody who's actually been on one of our 2-day weekend courses, Sharon's going to be here to support and answer any questions that you've got. So the format, I think, today is going to be, we are going to, if you've got any questions, put them into the chat. And then if they're not going to be answered during the slides, then I can call it out. But the plan is to, as you see a slide, if you've got any questions, put it in the chat and we will come back to that. If it's a big burning one, then I might interject with David as he's in mid-flow and say, oh, this is a great question. Shall we answer that now? But yeah, that's the format. So just put the questions in the chat as you've got them. And David, are you happy for me to start? Just a quick intro.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yes, let's do.
Brilliant. So I think most people on this call do know me. So Howard Locke, business analyst, 25 years experience, started my career in 1999. And like most people, I've worked on all different types of IT change and transformation projects during my career. I met David just over a year ago, and he started to talk to me about BVMF. So we actually met up face to face, and David started to show me some of the models, talked about BVMF and how he'd been researching it, developing it over the last 25 years. And first question I said to is, why is it not out there in the marketplace? Is brilliant. And he said, well, I've been busy developing it and researching it. And, so he'd never commercialized it. So I said, well, from what I've seen, this is brilliant. It should be out there, should be in the marketplace. Who doesn't want value and success and ROI out of projects and change that we all work on? It's often very overlooked. It's all about deliver, deliver, deliver. So in the last 12 months, David and we did a bit of a VIP launch back in April. So we got 24 people in a room, 550 years worth of experience, got the feedback. Everybody loved it, been tinkering with it and tweaking it and improving it. So November we had a course, and Sharon was one of the attendees on that course, and we've been refining it ever since. And the next one is on the 21st of March in Peterborough, Cambridgeshire, which is my hometown. So selfishly, I suggested to David, can we do it in Peterborough? But we're going to have others in Leeds, Manchester this year, and also down in High Wycombe in Buckinghamshire. So we are really sort of moving this forward now. So I'm now going to hand over to David. I've done a lot of talking, and over to you, David.
Thanks, Howard. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming. I hope you enjoy this. We'll. I'm going to give a presentation. It'll be roughly half an hour, and then we'll have Q&A afterwards. As Howard has just said, if you'd like to put questions in the chat, Howard may interrupt me, and we'll take, maybe one question per slide, and then we'll do the rest of the questions at the end. We've just upgraded our Zoom capability because it used to cut out after 40 minutes. Because I upgraded it since I put the booking in the event that this session drops out, possibly in half an hour's time, please just log back in on the same link that you've got, and we will carry on. Apologies in advance if that happens. So yeah, well, thanks to Howard for that. Let's start having a look at this. What I would say to you is you're very welcome to ask plenty of questions, because we want you to be very happy. We're very happy because we're proud to be doing something about the rather poor rate of success in this industry. And if you come on one of our courses, I'll give you a lot of history and background on that poor rate and what it is and why it is. But ask plenty of questions. What you will find is, if you come on the course, very often the answer to your question from Howard or me will be, thanks for the question, but you will get the answer to that in 10 minutes time, or thanks for the question, you will get that tomorrow morning. The answer with BVMF is almost always yes. It is very comprehensive. It is very deep. It's no pipsqueak. You will not pick this up in 5 minutes. This is not paint by numbers. This is what I call grown-up thinking. It takes a bit of head scratching, and you have to let it seep through your consciousness, and then it creeps up on you, and you suddenly find, wow, I'm much better at helping my team towards success and return on investment. And isn't that what this whole industry is all about? So let's get my slides working. Always takes a few clicks to get this going on here. Ah, marvelous. Now I've got a horrible black thing at the top, which hopefully you're not getting. Can you see the title of this slide completely clearly?
Yes, yes, we
Okay.
can, yeah.
All right, that's just my sort of utility thingamy-bob then. And okay, great. So what is BVMF? Well, it's the fundamental principles for maximizing value, success, and ROI, what we all want. Most of all, what the customers, citizens, everybody wants from IT-enabled business process. Fundamental principles that, to my mind, were not defined very well at all when I started doing this way back in the 1990s. And to this day, I still don't think they're very well defined, except by us. And I'm proud to be able to say that. Let's try and expose to you a bit of background and belief that you can have in why that is so. It's called a framework because we've got to give it a name. The business value maximization is the most important bit, and it is a framework. It means it's not an end-to-end methodology where you start at number 1 and you go through to 99 and there you are, you're all done. We're not trying to replace methodologies. What we're doing is trying to replace the missing parts of the value jigsaw, which I will tell you more about. It's also a skill set. And people who have BVMF as a skill set are called business value maximization specialists, BVMSs. We'll say more about that. It's a way of working and thinking, an attitude, a mindset, and it is a documented framework. You will get these slides, you can have the recording, and if you come on one of our courses, you will get various literature, a glossary, paperwork, and you will get the slides to the 2-day course has about 150 slides that we use across those 2 days. So along the bottom there, yeah, a comprehensive set of tools that includes models, concepts, principles, guidelines, techniques, and other components. Now, that's interesting. My down arrow won't work. Don't know why. These fundamental principles, by the way, are detailed and comprehensive. They're macro, micro connective. What does that mean? It means the big picture connects all the way to the detailed picture, and all the layers in between connect up to each other. This is one of the bits of quality about this approach. So there are no gaps between the pavement stones, if you like, to jeopardize the manifestation of optimal value. BVMF was developed mainly by me, specifically for the value maximization of IT-enabled business process. So in a business or organizational context, when we're using IT, mainly what we call front and back end processes, you know, pretty well everything that a business does really, and that does include manufacturing and stuff like that. Because this, I was a programmer way back in, oh blimey, the 80s and the 90s, before I became a business analyst and then a business value maximization specialist. And this was the area that I specialized in. However, just as a bit of a side issue, you might like to know, and you can see that estimate is pretty wide here, it doesn't matter, but quite a lot of BVMF will work for other kinds of IT projects. like medical, scientific, transportation, guidance, and all that kind of stuff. And going even further, it will even work for non-IT projects, because we've gone very, very deeply into how you get value and success. And quite a lot of the models and techniques, as I'm sure Howard will agree, will work in a non-IT context. But the secret of BVMF is it's IT. IT enabled situations that I really wanted to get hold of, because the success record is not great, ladies and gentlemen. The topics that we cover on the course are here. I'm not going to read through this. This will be fairly evident to you. You can look at the slides when Howard sends them out to you. Obviously, we give you some history, some background. We all need to know the context. The first step to any solution is understanding the problem, right? And we define what we call a value cake. We define what the ingredients of that cake are, and we define the recipe steps for making an optimally wonderful cake. We talk about the models and techniques and why they're different to pretty well anything else that's out there. And we give you a good feel for the structure and extent of BVMF. There are about 100 models, and there are about 500 concepts, principles, guidelines, and techniques. So it's fairly substantial. And we did not knock it up on the back of a fag packet last week because we thought it was a good idea. I started putting this together in the 1990s and worked on it almost every day until I met Howard in 2024. And he said, "Oh, we better commercialize this." And it's all going very, very well because we're helping a lot of people in the industry, and we're seeing that failure rate. Well, we want to get the failure rate down. What else do you get on the course? More about the role of the BVMS, how to apply BVMF, different ways you can do it, where to get more information, how to make further progress. So that's roughly what you'll get across the 2 days. Now, slightly more specifically, this agenda flexes a bit. It depends who we've got in the room, but basically on the Saturday, we do the introduction, we look at the history, the challenges, the context. We then go into the gotchas because there are a lot of challenges and gotchas and paradoxes in what we all do. And if you understand those, you can start to get more success. So we go through the day. There's a nice lunch. I think the Peterborough lunch is going to be particularly nice because it's a very nice hotel. We're at the Marriott in Peterborough on March the 21st and 22nd. That is the next course. And they happen to have a very, very nice swimming pool, which has got nothing to do with this talk about BVMF, but I just thought I'd drop that in because I've swum in that pool and it's very nice.
And a gym.
Oh, and
a gym.
They do. They absolutely do. So this is the first day, Saturday. And then on the second day, getting into designing value in. How do we stop value drifting away? Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but on most projects, however much value is conceived at the beginning, the tendency is for it to deplete as the project goes on. It's what I call the value dissipation effect. And we show you how to not only stop that, but ideally reverse it. So rather than value going down as your project goes along, it doesn't get worse or it doesn't drop, or it gets better. That's what we're all about, maximum value. So the objective of the 2-day course, to raise whatever level of capability you currently have, because you might be quite good at this already, in which case, superb, for maximizing value, success, and ROI by a big amount, because we're not really that interested in just little tweaks, although sometimes that might be what people want, but we really want to see value coming up a lot. We'll show you more about this on the course, but most projects that don't fail to meet expectations do not realize a lot of value. And when you think of the amount of money and time and resource going in to not just creating the IT, because that's just one part of the equation and the landscape, the whole project, we really want to see higher levels. So that you can take this capability, improved capability back to your team and enjoy it and help them by becoming a BVMS. And yeah, we find that the level of improvement after you've been on the course and had a chance to let it seep through your consciousness goes from significant to dramatic. We are putting numbers on these words as we speak. It's a big job, but we have quite a lot of happy people feeding us numbers, and we'll be able to give you some numbers very soon. Of course, the amount of value you can increase will vary hugely depending on the nature of your project. Here is some history. 75%, even 80% by some estimates of projects and digital transformations have failed partially or completely over the last 40 plus years to meet expectation. And that statistic has not changed in 40 plus years. It has not moved. There are a lot of reasons for that. Obviously, the technology is better. So you might say, well, hey, what's going on? Well, if you come on the course, you'll learn a lot about what is going on, and you'll learn to understand how to optimize the ingredients of that value cake. Yeah, the projects that don't fail, they struggle to show measurable benefit. Measuring is tricky. Well, obviously, a lot of what we do is measure, quantify the value. And yeah, success needs to be defined. What is a success for you, your project, your company? Will help you to do that as well. Here's a couple of pictures of BVMF, looking at it in different ways. As I said before, on the left, BVMF completes the value jigsaw that we consider has lots of pieces missing. If you've got trying to do a jigsaw with pieces missing, you're not going to end up with a very complete picture, are you? So it completes, brings in those missing pieces, but also helps the other pieces that are already there, but are not fitting together very well to fit together much more coherently and much better. On the right, we've just got a different way of looking at it. We're building a block of flats, and if you have the foundations in place, the understanding of how value works and is generated, you will have a nice solid building and not the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or even worse, as you can see on the left. Here is how the business value maximisation specialist works. There's quite a lot on here, but basically the business value maximisation specialist has all the structures that we will bring to your attention and models, which to my way of thinking were never properly defined, but is also quite a polymathic, multi-skilled operator, and therefore has these structures and models and can use those to get a common understanding across the whole team. So this is a slightly different role, because the problem at the moment is a lot of these people round the edge are rather working like that, aren't they? Round the edge, it's a bit siloed. You know, they try to work with each other. Yes, of course they do, but you will see lots of gaps occurring, and business and IT not understanding each other very well still after all these years. Well, we're going to help you very, very strongly with that.
And David, I'll just add to that I do get asked, how do I see the BVMS role? So I always say, to start with, it's probably going to be an overlay role to what you do already, right? So as a BA, you'll still do BA tasks, but being a business value maximization specialist, you're thinking of value as well as what you're doing. Same for project management. Project managers are there to sort of deliver things, but delivering value not just to a budget that's been set, but actually thinking about value. So my view is, to start with, it's probably going to be an overlay role to what we'll do now, whatever your current role is, but with that value lens. But in the future, it'll probably be a standalone role, possibly in organizations. You've got business analysts, but you've got people specifically looking at value through projects, portfolios, change, transformation, work streams, and a lot of things are moving towards outcome based now. You'll see people talk about outcome based. That's something that's been moving quite forward recently. So yeah, we think the BVMS, yes, it's an overlay role probably to start with, but eventually, companies will have business analysts and they'll probably have business value specialists that will ensure that value is being obtained and optimized through projects and programs. That's how we see the sort of role evolving. So yeah, sorry, David, to cut you in your stride.
No, that's okay, and that's good. Thanks. And let me clarify. What Howard is saying is, at the moment, the BVMS role can be superimposed on the business analyst, the project manager, the benefits manager, and any of these people. But it can also develop into an independent role where, so it might be like this diagram. You could have a BVMS working where you've got a BA as well and all these other people. It just depends. Project teams are all very, very different, aren't they? Depends on resources, etc. Now, to take that a step further, there's a lot of words on here. Sorry, I need to cut these down. But the Howard said to me one day when we were discussing all this, well, it looks to me like we need a chief value officer. And I said, yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant. We do. We really do. And we think that the chief value officer will be coming into play very soon, if only because we're going to bring it in. And this slide is about the fact that I'm not the only one who thinks this. I've been a bit confused about the intended role of a CIO. And I think CIOs have an amazing amount of expectation on them. And this is my little analogy. Would the person responsible for designing and building aqueducts read their IT systems, right, in the analogy, also be expected to be a full-on expert in how water nourishes, washes, and performs its beneficial functions, and how its disadvantages can be mitigated, e.g., floods and stuff like that, and to drive this latter innovative aspect? Those are two very diverse skill sets, and I think very few people can really do those very, very well. I can do that. It sounds a bit smug, but that's why I'm here presenting BVMF to you. It's just how my career went. But usually, the CIOs are often IT directors. They've been promoted. Maybe they have a bit of an innovation business strategy mindset. But I'm really speaking on their behalf here, because I think the expectations are not great, and I think we need a CVO, and that could be, as it says at the bottom, it could be a promoted business value maximization specialist. It could be a BA. It could be a benefits manager, but you need someone who is right up on how value is generated and how to get it. And our 2-day course is all about that. You will come out of that 2 days really knowing a lot about that. And I believe we have Sharon with us today, who later on might be kind enough to say a few words, because she was on one of our courses, and you can hear it from the horse's mouth, or I don't know, maybe it's not the horse's mouth, but someone who's been on one of the courses. So now, BVMF has got about 100 models and 500 concepts, principles, guidelines, and techniques. Yes, it has. Just to give you an idea of the size, it's difficult for us to know the exact number, because it's not the number that's important, it's how good and effective it is. But that gives you a rough idea of the size. I'll show you some numbers that you will get exposed to on the course in a minute. Don't worry if you see this big size, because one of the beauties of BVMF, and it has many unique selling points, is you can use as much of it or as little of it as you like. The more you use, the more value you will get. So you don't need to be worrying and thinking, oh goodness, I need to understand this whole framework and all these five. No, you don't. So obviously on the course we give you the first, that it's called core, this 2-day course, and it's foundation. So it's all the basic stuff. You can go away and make a massive difference to your projects with what you will learn on that core foundation course. We do also have an intermediate course, which will be available soon, and even an advanced one, which will be coming along in the not too distant future. There's a lot of mileage in this. The models, if you're wondering, tend to be graphical, so they're pictures, and I'll show you a couple later. And they describe and explain the problem. When you understand the problem, you can start to see what you need to do. Once you've got this kind of macro, big picture level of a solution forming, then we wheel in the concepts, principles, guidelines, techniques, things you can actually do to bring about the macro level solution. And BVMF takes you all the way across stepping stones, like it says in that bottom paragraph. We help you to rationally cross the river of challenge, as I call it, with value connective steps. It just means instead of trying to jump across a raging river and falling in the water, or getting all muddy on the bank and not making it, or even worse, drowning in the stream, you go across sensible stepping stones, and each of those stones is connected in a proper way to the previous one. So you know what you're doing, you know why you're doing it, and you know you go step, 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 step. There you are. Oh, lovely success. Business people, very happy. Thank you very much. Wow, this is a bit different to what the IT industry's generally been doing over the last 40 or 50 years. I'm not saying it's all been terrible. Of course it hasn't, but a heck of a lot of it has, and we want to see that failure rate go down. What's BVMF not? As I said right at the beginning, it's not a delivery methodology. It's not trying to be that. It does deliver value. Oh, yes, it does. But it does not deliver your project. It does not deliver your software. They're all in there. It's not paint by numbers or joining the dots. If you like doing that, you can go to Smith's, or it's now called TG Jones, I think's taking it over. And you can go and buy yourself a little magazine, and there'll be lots of nice joining the dots and paint by numbers puzzles that the IT industry likes to do, and it thinks that if it does those, it's going to get a huge, great result out at the end. I'm really sorry to tell you, you won't necessarily get a good result by joining the dots and painting by numbers. But we will help you. This is grown-up thinking. There's philosophy in this, there's information management, there's philosophical logic, there's IT, there's all kinds of factors which have been brewing about in my head in the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and what do you call it? What are the teens, whatever they're called? and then since I met Howard in 2024, we're both working on this like heck, and we're really enjoying talking to folks like you. Now, here are some very key questions that you will get answers to on the course. These are not the only questions you will get answers to, but I do put this set of questions up because on the whole, these questions do not get answered very well, if at all, on projects. What is value? How does it arise? Where's it going to come from? How much of it is there to be had? And then when we talk about this value cake, what are the ingredients of that cake exactly? You will get that on the course. And how do you combine these ingredients? What are the recipe steps? Great. How do you get more value? Can we bake two cakes or only one? How do you avoid getting less? How do you measure it all? Those are the sort of questions that we'll be answering. They're not the only ones, but those are the most important ones that get answered. Everything in this framework is about value. Everything else is part of the jigsaw, but this drives value right the way through. What's been happening in the last 40, 50 years is people have been doing all kinds of stuff, projecty stuff, IT stuff, other stuff, trying to do it well, and then hoping lots of value is going to come out the other end. And very often it does not. The value has to drive, not follow. Did you want to come in, Howard, on something there, or was that just
No, no, I'm just thinking out loud now.
dangerous? Right. Now, these 15 core models you will see on the course. These aren't the only models you'll see on the 2-day course. You'll probably see about 30 odd models altogether. But these are the models that Howard and I have defined as being the core. That means that when you understand these and you can use them and apply them fairly well, like I said before, you can start getting much, much better results, much more success and value, more reliably, more predictably. Now, you probably don't recognize a lot of these terms. That wouldn't surprise me. A lot of this is new. On the course, you will get a lot of very new terminology. All I can say about that is I want to call everything by the most indicative, appropriate name I can give it, and Howard as well. And because this has not been done very fulsomely before, we need new concepts, we need new names. We give you a glossary, and I think when you get used to them, you will see things are named quite well.
Yeah, and if you keep on that slide, just David, just very quickly. So when we created this, because David said to me, basically layers of focus, which is a model, is the beating heart of BVMF. When we put this together, right, it made sense. So when obviously all these things on the outside, David's going to go to the next slide in a few seconds. But obviously when I first saw these, it meant nothing to me. So I've been a BA for 25 years, and I thought I knew quite a lot. But when I started to see this, which is why I thought, wow, this is very different. I've never seen anything like it. And David will probably go to the next slide. So all those acronyms you can see there are elaborated. But yeah, you would never have seen anything like this because it's new to the industry, right? Even though David's been living and breathing this and using this successfully in his clients. So background to David, I don't know if you said, but David has pretty much been a business analyst and worked in IT change and transformation. So my humble 25 years is absolutely super trumped by David's 40 years. But he has been using BVMF to success, which we'll come on to in a bit, in his day job, right, as a business analyst and his in his professional career. Hence, that's why I was interested. So it's not just pie in the sky stuff. This has been tried and tested with clients. We've got some references to that. But look, if you look down that list there, you probably never heard anything like this. There could be stuff out there that's got similarities possibly, but all this was new, and I looked at it and I thought, never heard of that, never seen that, don't know what that is, what is it? But yeah, as you can see, this is the 15 core models are, once you learn these, then you can just go out there on Monday morning and start thinking about value as well as what you'd normally do in your day job. Us BAs, we think about process, we think about functional requirements, we think about non-functionals, data, impact, all that type of stuff. This is all designed to encourage you to think about value and net benefit. And sorry, David, I took over there.
Right. What I would say is that when you see these models, um, despite the fact that the names might look quite new, some of the concepts in there will be quite familiar because I did not pluck this out of nowhere. It's all based on what's been going on for the last 45 years, what's been working, what's not been working, and you will see references. So this is, I've stood on the shoulders of giants, as people say. Absolutely. Some of these models are I suppose, quite original, but most of them are based, well, they're all based on reality, what is going on out there, and how do we make sure that we start getting more success and value. Right, now here's one of the 100 odd models, because you probably want to see one. And this is one of the ones that you will see early-ish on the course. And this shows you very simply, which is deliberate, how value arises in the runtime situation, i.e., in the operational situation. A project might have been done, it's gone live, it's all happening on a day-to-day basis. People are doing work. How's the value arising? We've got IT involved here. Technical part of IT at the bottom is supporting the functional part of IT. The functionality is working with human beings. That's the manual bit. Increasingly, we have equipment involved these days as well. Those three, particularly the two I'm focusing on, which is the human beings and the IT functionality, are enacting what is known as a business process. I tend to prefer to call it an organizational activity path or pattern, because all the time I'm constantly trying, as I just said, to call things by more helpful, more appropriate names. And it is that process that delivers the success, value, and ROI. The IT does not directly deliver the value. Even the people actually don't directly deliver it. They all combine together to deliver it through the business process. One of the analogies I use here is it's like a golfer playing golf. If you imagine those sticks things, right, the clubs in the bag, and say they're the IT systems, they're not going to do anything until the golfer swings the club. Now, that's the business process, and it is the golfer swinging those clubs, using those systems, that determines whether the golfer's going to win the game or not, or how good a golfer they are. It's the same here. You'll see a lot more of this. I think I'm going to move on because I'm conscious of time. You can have a look at these when Howard sends them out to you. There are some links which should all work because I tested them. There's a lot of information on BVMF out there, and the more you look, the more you can learn. And if you come on a course, if you look at some of this stuff, you'll be kind of oven ready. You don't need to, but it really does help. You can learn an awful lot about BVMF, and this is all fairly recent in the last few years. There's some videos on YouTube. I did 4 webinars for the IIBA. There's six articles, open access government, and there's a podcast on Spotify, which I specifically did for C-suite executives. Now, here's an important point or points. BVMF completes, augments, and enhances existing roles, methods, practices. Significantly, often dramatically, yes, it does not replace them. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are not replacing Prince. We are not replacing whatever you guys are using, whatever BAs are using, whatever the project managers are using. What we are doing is supplying what glues that all together, the missing pieces of the value jigsaw. You will find that if you are using whatever, Prince and Scrum and goodness knows what, you will find yourself using them slightly differently and in a more beneficial, more value-focused way. Oh, yes, you will, because you will understand and have a much better feel for how the whole landscape, the whole value landscape, success landscape holds together, how it coheres. Here are a couple of quotes.
There you go, Sharon, you're famous. You're on the slide.
Oh, yes, Sharon, this is you. These are 2 nice people who came on the course we did back in November. And this is what they said in some of the feedback which they sent in. And Sharon will be kind enough to say a bit more about that once I've finished this presentation, which will probably be in about 10 minutes' time. Bilkis very nicely set an exceptional framework and collection of techniques. I like linking BVMF value, da da da. I'm not sure if that lady drinks alcohol, but I'm not quite sure why she said David was amazing. She must have been drunk at the time. I don't know. Sharon, the amount of value the models can add is impressive. Will really help me. Be interesting, Sharon, when we get you on soon, to just hear maybe a bit about what's happened since you were on the course with us. If you want to, that would be fab. Here's a comment from a practitioner. It was a principal business analyst that I was actually mentoring a few years ago. And I said, would you like to, once we got the mentoring under control, I said, would you like to have some training in BVMF? And she said, yes, please. I trained her in BVMF. And this is what she said at the end of the training. It's extreme common sense. I wished I'd known about it years ago. Great. The mentoring, we actually helped her to move from a very large organization that wasn't using her very well, which happens sometimes. It's a bit of a shame. And she got herself into a smaller organization as a bigger cog in the machine with her BVMF experience. And she's doing fantastically well now. And she's very happy, and we're very proud of her. Now, from the client point of view, if you look at our website, there's plenty of comments from clienty people on there. But this is one I particularly like because the European purchasing manager for a major multinational manufacturer was actually in industrial gases and chemicals. Said, I don't know anybody who translates between business and IT as well as you. Now, this is a good point because we have heard about this business IT gap for the last 40 blooming years. And just about every business analyst role I've ever seen says you're going to be bridging between business and IT. And I go, oh, God, blimey, because that gap will never properly be closed until somebody defines what bridges between the two, the stepping stones that I was talking about before. And that is what we have done. So we don't have a gap. When you've been on the course, you will find you will be able to step across. I'm sure as BAs and whatever you're doing now, you've got some very good facilitation and, multi-skilled skills. But you will find it once you've got some of these models and techniques under your belt, you will find that whole bridging, jumping across that where you won't be jumping across the river backwards and forwards. You'll be taking these people with you on the journey as well. And you will all be understanding how value and success arises and all doing it together. And this nice gentleman also said, you got us more value than we thought possible, which is very nice. And those are the kind of comments we want. Here's just the courses that we are doing. The one in grey is the one we're presenting to you now. The others are all the level 3 is almost ready. The difference with the level 3 course is it's 3 days instead of 2, and you get an exam on the third day. Do you want to say something about this slide, Howard, at all? Or?
Yeah, so the next course on the 21st and 22nd of March that's being held in Peterborough, as David mentioned earlier. So that's the level 2 core. So there's no actual exam at the end of it. There is an exercise without giving too much away at the end of the 2 days, but there's not an official exam. What you do get is a certificate of attendance to say that you've been on the course for the level 2 foundation course, so you do get a certificate, and Sharon probably can mention that as well. But yeah, and the reason why we've done it at the weekend to start with is because there is a lot of interest from the contract pool. So obviously most contractors don't want to give up their days to be unpaid, so we did it by design to start with. But as we move into more corporate and work directly with companies that will probably go on site and on premise to actually actually do the training, that's when we'll do a 3-day course. So yeah, so as we switch from sort of B to C to B back to B to B, that's when we'll do that 3 days in the week. And these courses are probably going to be funded as part of the training programs from these corporate organisations. So yeah, it's by design at the weekend. So but yeah, that's I just wanted to give a quick
Right,
overview.
right. I'm just going to finish off now, Howard. That this is just
Yeah.
um, what you know. I think Howard's busy putting dates on. We've actually got 3 courses in 2026. This is all on the website, and there you go. We're going to go into Q&A. I just need to disappear for 1 minute on a family issue.
No,
Would you just
no problem.
halt and
No problem.
start having a look at those questions, and I will be back in 1 minute, and we will do the Q&A.
Sure. So before we go on to questions, just a couple of things that David mentioned, I didn't want to interject too much is so the first thing is we talked about a chief value officer. Now that's a role that I believe in the future will be a new C-suite role. And why do I think that? Well, C-suite has definitely expanded over the years. So we didn't have CISOs like chief security officers 20 years ago. We didn't have chief data officers in the C-suite space. So I believe that a chief value officer will be a role that will sit between CFO, the chief finance officer, and sort of head of portfolio, head of program, head of projects, head of PMO, and they will be the sort of value gatekeepers to make sure that projects and programs and work streams and outcome-based stuff that's going to be run, is going to provide net benefit and value, right? So that's how I predicted that. When that will be, I don't know. So that's the first one that I wanted to just sort of mention. And the second one is when I first met David, because I'd not seen stuff like this before. And there is value stuff out there. So in business architecture, you've got value streams and stuff. So there is some things in business architecture that sort of touches on value. But the difference between BVMF is because all of it is value based, right? So everything, all the models are based to get optimal value out of things. That's what makes it different. We also get asked sometimes about, oh, isn't it just benefits management? Well, my experience of benefits management, and Bill Kiss, who's on one of the slides there. So she does a lot in benefits management, and she said, yes, this is very different. And we had a conversation in the classroom and talked about it. So often business cases, it's quite aspirational what you're going to get out of things, right? So business cases usually quite pie in the sky, aspirational, with lots of figures in there just to get funding, right? And then you might do some benefits management during a project, really capture something, but you won't really see it until it's operational live, and you might do some benefits realization at the end when you realize you spent millions of pounds and not really got much benefit. So the difference between BVMF and what I'd call benefits management is you can use it at the start to quantify whether you're going to actually get some value. You can use the models during stuff. I say stuff because it can be, I talked to David, you could even do it down to defect level. If I fix this defect, what's the net benefit or the net value? So the models are very flexible in what levels of granularity you go down to. And then at the end, you can use it like you would in benefits management to say what actual value did we get. So that's why it's different, and that's what it makes it powerful. So welcome back, David. I was just giving a quick overview of chief value
That's very
officers.
good.
And
Thank you. Could I make a suggestion?
sure.
I think we could encourage, would Sharon be up for coming on and just giving a few impressions? Thank you, Sharon, very much.
Thank you.
Hi, how you doing? Thanks,
Very good.
David. Always nice to hear David talk about his passion for the framework. Yeah, and I think there was, for me, it helps with it helped with my day to day, especially because I manage BAs as well. So I obviously need to see the value of those. So using different techniques of the framework to help them, which also helps me to see the value within projects. And also it can help with portfolios, well, with the portfolio teams to see the values throughout projects using some of the value disconnects. I think we sometimes just oversee value, especially when you pick KPIs, etc. For projects, yes, it's a KPI, it meets budget, it meets cost, but what's its actual value? So you can actually use some of these techniques to map those values in order to show that. And you can actually use them as there's another technique, there's boosters, where you can use them at different levels throughout project phases just to show. And a lot of the techniques are very C-suite friendly. So they're very easy on the eye for when you have done the techniques and you do visualize and show that to C-suite levels. So it catches their eye a lot more. You can see that numeric value. It does help. It does help. And I'm always thinking of different ways of how to use these different techniques. There's a lot of techniques that obviously I've not used, but there's a lot there. But you'll always find one to add that value in whatever sort of scenario or situation you're in. But it was a good
Perfect.
course, definitely.
Perfect. Thanks, Shan. Really appreciate that.
No.
So I'm going to go to some questions now. So Bob mentioned about AI. We'll come on to that in a bit, Bob. So Lorna, for the further courses, will existing level 2 holders have access to this also? So on the level 2, there's no prerequisite to do level 1. So level 2 sort of wraps in level 1 and 2 at the same time. But so obviously during the course, you'll get access to material. We'll share the slides afterwards, but also you'll have access to us in order to sort of support your quest. But yeah, so the 2-day course is level 2, but there's no that does wrap in sort of level 1 and level 2. I'm just reading the question again. Have access to this also. Yeah, so you'll get access to material. So you'll get access to what we call the index as well. We're also working on reasons for failure. So you'll get some supporting material. So not only will you have the models, you'll have the index that helps you what model should I be using? So the reasons for failure document says, I've got this failure type. What models could or should I use in order to support that? And also what techniques, guidelines and principles should I be using in that model? So you get all that supporting material. Lorna, I suppose, does that answer the question in full?
It does, but I was also thinking about as this evolves, because you were just showing that you were going to go into the corporate side and stuff, and you're doing like that the 3-day thing, but also thinking that this will evolve, so it's how we still can maintain our level of knowledge, and if there's the next level of certification, like for example, like you've got Prince 1 and you've got safe 1 to 6, or and how people progress through that. It's just how, as that evolves, existing learners can keep up with that.
Yes. Okay. Now, good question. So we're calling at the moment BVMF is 1.0, right? So we've drawn a line under the foundation course, and that's 1.0. So so the intermediate course is takes it down to another level of detail. So in the 2-day course, you'll get to see those 15 models plus some others discussed. So they're the core ones plus some others that we dip in and out of. And then if you went to an intermediate, you would then get not only additional models and additional techniques, but you'd also get another lower level of granularity, and then obviously advanced, it takes it to another level. So the plan is that we're going to be, this is the core level 2 fundamentals of it, and like David said, you'd have to let it seep in. So some of it, when I got introduced to it, some of it I get straight away, some of the models are like you get straight away and think, what, this is so easy, but the outputs you get from it is amazing. Other models a bit more complicated, and you in your head, where could or should I use those? So some of it you'll get straight away, some of it you'll get after you've thought about it, and some of it is a bit harder. So but the foundation 2-day core course is designed. I suppose, Sharon, question for you, right? I mean, did you have a favorite model? Is going to be the first question. Did you? Because I've got my favorite, but do you have a favorite model?
Oh, I think it might have been the Cub.
Yes. Okay. I knew you'd say that. So
Yeah.
Cub is conceptual units of benefit, and the Cub ladder is a very, very easy to understand model so it sort of layers up where are you going to get 0 benefit out of it? Is it like a hygiene layer and you need that? You know, it's a bit like logging into a system. It's pointless not being able to log in. And then up the food chain, you can sort of look at requirements, but you could even look at requirements at the level of what value, because a lot of the things we talk about is MVP, right? So what minimum do we need to make it work? But actually, using the conceptual units of benefits ladder, the cub ladder, you can work out even at requirement level what value you're going to get from that, because it might be we need it fundamentally, but you know, we do all must have, should have, could have, would haves on requirements, but using some of these models, it allows you to look at it with a value lens. And the cub ladder is probably one of my favorites as well, Sharon. David knows that from day one. I thought, well, this is really powerful because you could use it at multiple levels. You know, you can do it at project level, you could do it at work stream, you could do it at requirement level. And I think I mentioned defect earlier. You could sort of run it through it, and if I fix this, what's the level of value I'm going to get from this, or ROI, or net benefit, you know? So I mean, all the models are really designed to quantify value, right? So business cases and all that type of stuff, you know, some of it, you know, you can probably say, oh, if we do this, we'll reduce 2 FTE, we'll do that, but it actually makes you think about it a bit deeper than just monetary as well. So I mean, value comes in many shapes and sizes and guises. So value is not always about monetary. You know, it could be about morale. It could be customer success, you know, so it's not just monetary numbers. And the models are there to, you know, to show that and to drive that out. So yes, I mean, Lorna, any sort of follow-up question from that?
No, that's all good. I'm looking forward to coming on the course. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Brilliant. If you come into the March one, that'd be great. I can't remember where you live. Brilliant. Oh, yes, you are. You're booked and paid, I think, aren't you?
Paid the deposit, not paid it all, but yeah.
Oh, there you go. With your booked on it, yeah. So you're already on for March, which is so I'm just trying to think of down here. So Bob, business cases. Yeah, so Bob, do you want to elaborate on your question around the business case side? I'll answer that.
Yeah, I can. Are you going to bring me on the screen, or how do you want to do it?
You brought yourself on the screen by talking.
Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. I don't need to be on the screen, but I'm happy to. Great discussion, guys. Really followed it and thought it was really good, by the way. Howard, my comment, which you understand anyway, is when you go down the Prince 2 MSP type route, the business case starts it off and everybody puts in loads of effort. Generally, people don't track business cases well. Very big mistake. And then usually everybody's left by the time the business case gets reviewed and the lessons learned get done. And also the benefits will, so many times with cultural change and all the rest of it, it will all have happened, you know, too late, if you know what I mean. The CEO will have been sacked, especially if it's a water company. Did I say that? Sorry, that was only a joke.
I'm working in the water industry as we speak, Bob.
Sorry?
I'm working in the water industry as we speak.
Yeah. Oh, right. Sorry. Okay.
But yes, so you're absolutely right. You know, at the moment, business cases are there typically to get funding, right? And by the time you realise have you got any net benefit out of all this, you know, time, money, effort, everything's been wasted, right? And by the time somebody says, oh, by the way, you know, this we did and we spent all this millions and all this effort and it took this time, actually we have hardly any net benefit. In fact, I see things, I hear from people that, well, actually it's worse than what they had before for various reasons. You know, I mean, technology aside, you know, we all love technology because it enables our lives in certain ways, but it's not the be all end all with everything, and technology might not always solve it. So at least with BVMF, you can check before you do something multiple times. You check during, you can we've got an ABC in there, so assess, boost, check model, so you keep doing that to make sure that your value's not diminishing, and then at the end you can actually say, right, you know, we've been checking this, we've been boosting it, we've been making sure we're going to get the value, and you do it at the end. So that is why it's quite different, you know, and even, you know, at portfolio level, if you're trying to work out what projects you should be doing, you can run BVMF through it, of the models through it, so input output data, and then go, well, actually we think, or you and PMO space can go, we've looked at these projects and I know you want to do this one, but you're going to get the most value out of these ones, and whatever that value might look like. And I said, it's not necessarily just monetary. So Bob, does that answer the question?
Yes, it does, but it promotes another one, which I'll quickly say.
Go for it.
If you want to cover it. So one of the biggest problems in all this that we do day to day is the communication and the updates and the dashboards and all the rest of it, and bringing people together, working in harmony. Do you have a dashboard structure to give people sort of ongoing updates as you go?
Well, I mean, I'll answer this quickly, and then David, you can talk. I mean, because it's not necessarily a delivery methodology, right? So it's not like a status update thing. Is there anything in there that would lend itself to that? I don't know if there is. I mean, David, you can probably answer it from your BVMF perspective, but because it's not like a reporting tool and it's not like a delivery, it fits into delivery in the fact that you're checking values throughout the life cycle. But I mean, David, have you got a view?
Yeah, you could easily make a dashboard, Bob, because like Howard explained pretty well, the difference is here that your business case will contain a business value case, and you will then have all the stepping stones to keep going back to it all the way along, boosting, and addressing the value dissipation effect till you get to the end, and you get a blooming different result to what most projects get that just dribble away and no one really knows whether they got any value or not. Somebody could quite easily knock up a dashboard. It hasn't been our focus so far, but I mean, we could sit down with you, and from going through BVMF, we could easily define one. A lot of the input would come from a human being. The BVMS would be putting in, how are we doing on that and this, and you know, that sort of value cake ingredients looking a bit dodgy. Yeah, could be done.
Yeah.
I mean, eventually we'll be doing all of this.
Yeah,
it will be software deployed. We've got a whole we haven't mentioned yet, we've got an IT business value capability assessment that's almost done. I've been working on for yonks, which we're trying to get out and deploy a basic questionnaire. It's all there.
Yeah. And Bob, obviously, great question. I think you're right. Could we have a value dashboard, right? You know, and that's what I've just thought about, and the answer is yes. You know, because at the moment these models aren't in software, so you don't like type in data and you get it on the get an output of what the result is. But that again is another thing that we've had various conversations around. You know, how do we actually computerize some of these models? So you input data and then obviously get answers out. So again, that's in the pipeline. That's in the, you know, we're considering these and how we move this forward. So that's Bob, your question. I'm just looking down the list now. So Jazz has asked, do the models have examples, David?
Well,
we run scenarios through them. So when we're doing the course, I think I'll answer for what David's thinking. So yes, what we do is we show a blank model, right? And then we show an overlay of how you can put data into it, and you know what that expected or potential output could look like, right? So yes, we're also adding all more examples and samples and case studies all the time to them. So the answer is yes. So we're trying to put more of that in as well. So we show a blank model, we show an example or a scenario, and we run it through it so you can see, you know, some outputs based on something that would make sense to you. So you not only just see the model, but then we run stuff through it so you can see it.
That's good to know. And then is that part of the materials as well? Does that come along in the material?
Well, it's part of the course and the materials. I mean, on the Sunday afternoon, we do a practical exercise now where you know, I describe a scenario which was actually based on a real one that I was involved in, and what the problems were, that value was not coming out, and then you go away and get into teams and work out, use some of what you've learned over the 2 days. I mean, all the time I'm delivering this, I'm constantly referencing it to reality, because you know you don't make this stuff up, sort of. Although I suppose some of the IT industry does, I know, and that's part of the problem. They sort of think, well, if you do that, it's all going to be wonderful, and no, it isn't, and it's a false premise. But all the time, we're linking it to as much reality as we can, and we'll talk. You know, after I've shown the technique or that, we have a discussion. And has anyone been in that situation? Oh yeah. Oh, what happened? Da, da, da. Oh, well, what I would do, you know, working it through all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Perfect. I'm just looking down now. Just some comments from Bob's. We'll come proven use cat exactly.
Oh, about 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. What am I talking about? 7 o'clock, Howard.
So yeah, so few more minutes. So you're right, Bob.
Sure.
We're gonna have more case studies, and as people that have been trained in BVMF come back and give us feedback as well, they can give some more real life scenarios. That's the plan, to get more, breathing it all to life, and getting more referenceable case studies and use cases. So that's the goal. We're continuing with that. So Rachel, Rachel still is on the call. Yeah, David, thanks for this very articulate session. I'll definitely join in June. Okay, that's brilliant. So needs to drop off at 7 o'clock. So you're still on, Jazz, because I can. Sorry, Rachel, I can see you there, which is brilliant. Any other questions? So. Yeah, Rachel's got a thumbs up there. So any verbal questions rather than just in the chat? Has anybody got any question at all? And obviously, I say to David, there's no such thing as a stupid question. We get lots of different types of question, and I'll probably say actually AI, right? So we do get asked, you know, how does AI work with BVMF? Okay, so I always say the same thing, which is, well, AI is a solution or potential set of solutions. You know. But that, because it's a solution, you probably need to work out what problem you're trying to solve first. So once you've worked out your problem, you could then use BVMF to run some of the AI solutions through it to say, well, actually, if I went for this solution, what sort of net benefit am I likely to get? So actually, it's the reverse. You know, you've got these 5 things that you're going, I need to do some AI. I've got all these solutions. I don't know what to do with it. Let's work out the problem. Let's then use BVMF, run this through the models and go, well, actually, that AI solution is most likely to give you the net benefit or most value. So that's how we sort of reverse that. So and obviously it was born out of, you know, IT tech and technology change and an IT environment. So, you know, a lot of the stuff you'll see in the models, there'll be a lot of stuff in there that you will understand from an IT and tech perspective if you worked on any IT change projects or programs. So you will see that in there, especially layers of focus is a good example of that.
Can I make a comment? Can I make a quick comment on that AI stuff?
Yes, of course.
Howard, I don't disagree with anything that you and David are saying. All I'd like to say is that I'm absolutely livid at the moment with the number of people that go and do AI and they are just they'll get killed in the next couple of years because the way they go about it is so improper. And when the legislation comes in, they're going to end up with big fines. That's all I wanted to say. Okay. You've got to get the framework right.
Absolutely. And Trupti, I'm not sure if Trupti is still on the call. Let's have a very quick look.
I've got a question.
Okay, yeah, Trupti is saying thank you very much. Very interesting listen, excellent perspective. And Trupti joined fairly late, so yeah, thanks Trupti for joining us. I hope that it's given you enough information to say, yeah, I want to come on if it's not the next course in March, one in June, one in October. So yeah, it'd be great to see you.
Howard.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Have we got a way of capturing what's gone through the chat? Do you know?
I think the chat gets saved as part of. Okay. So if you save the video, that will get saved as a movie file.
You can actually the 3 dots in. If you click the 3 dots in the chat at the top, it's save chat and it'll go into a Zoom folder in your directory. Yeah.
Look at that. See, this is why we've got BVMF as on here, helping and providing value.
Yeah. Have you done that, Howard?
I've done it. I've saved it. Yeah, and I can see show in folder.
I just wasn't sure because I think we've answered most of the questions, but there might be some that I don't want people to go away from here with unanswered questions. What I would say is we're running these not every week, but almost every week now. And we are intending to kind of progress these, not only a sort of prelim to our courses, but also a general forum for people in the industry to get together who, like us, are blooming fed up with a 75% failure rate and think, crikey, can't we do better than this? And do something about it, because it's been going on way too long. So these sessions, you're very welcome. Anyone today, if you want to come again, just come. You know, there's no like, oh, you can only come for one.
Or introduce others. Introduce others. It'd be great if you can just say, "Oh, just go in and listen."
Yeah.
You know, there's no obligation.
No, there's no obligation to come on a course. This is
No.
a forum to help the industry just get better with success. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, everybody. I'll hand back to you, Howard, to close.
Yeah, and I think to close off, so we would love to see you on the course. We are offering, you know, an amazing discounts at the moment. You know, you'll see that the price on the website is like a 995 for the 2-day course. We're encouraging people to come and join us. So we are offering 70% discount. So it's only 300 quid plus VAT for the 2-day course, includes lunch both days. You know, come on this journey, you know, and adopting early, you know, like Sharon's been using it, you know, in a day job and adopting early. I mean, this is going to be huge, right? So, you know, I don't like to mention the A word, but like Agile was 24 years ago, when it's a new way of working, new way of thinking, a new way of doing stuff. I see BVMF is something like that was 24 years ago, where, you know, it was just a different way of thinking, a different way of working. And, you know, some people got it straight away. Some people early adopted. Some companies are only just implemented Agile now. So, you know, this is a longer journey, but, you know, this will be huge. And as companies and organizations start to look at money, budget, capex expenditure a lot more closer than they ever have before, this is where BVMF is going to come into its own. And being a value specialist, as well as whatever you do in your day job, it's going to be a massive extra string to your bow. And Bob, we would love to see you in March. You don't have to answer it now, but it would be great if you can come up to Peterborough and we can you know, show you the course, have a beer and in the evening, and have some good chat. So there is fun along the journey. It's not a boring course. Sharon knows this, and we won't give any secrets away. But there's some nice pleasant surprises, and it's not boring. Somebody commented about our BVMF certificates, and because it's I've got BCS, I've got IIBA. They're a little bit boring. So our certificates, and Sharon's got one, is a little bit more in your face, a bit more out there, because we don't want to be boring. We want to make a difference, and we are passionate about changing our industry and getting as much value as possible. And even if we added 10% value, think how much IT spend around the globe. I don't know what the IT global spend is. Imagine that we just improve stuff by 10%, even 5%, even 2%. What that means, right? So it's a long journey.
If we drop that failure rate from 75 to 65%, what is that worth in global GDP or world GDP?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think basically we're just gone over 7 o'clock. So I'll encourage any questions, message me, message David, or if you want to join the course, just ping me a message and we'll get you onboarded. And yeah, there's no, and again, just reach out, recommend us, and just, you know, just we're here to support as well. And there's no, you know, if you've got another 10, 15 questions that you think about after this, just ping me and we'll answer it. Yeah, so David, I think that's it. Sorry, yes.
Aaron, sorry, go on. I've got one quick one. Hopefully, it won't take too long. So, you know, like, do we have to use like multiple models to get like a holistic outcome, or can we just use one?
You could use one or many. So the beauty of BVMF is when you know, once you've trained on these models, you know, different models lend themselves for different scenarios. So it might be that whatever problem you're trying to solve or what you're trying to get out of it might be that one or many models will help you, and each model has got a different lens and perspective, right? So you could run it through one model, and then there'll be another model that will give you you know, a slightly different perspective of it, right? So, and again, without David probably giving a true life example, if you run this through this, you know, this will give you this lens, yeah, this will give you this lens. We do also talk about in the course, your standard projects, right? If you let's just talk waterfall, for example, right? So we do talk, because obviously agile is just an iterative way, you're in shorter cycles, but we do show for how you get value at each level of a standard. We're doing analysis, design, test, implement, all that type of stuff. So we do actually show you what models would lend themselves at different stages as well. So we're trying to be as helpful as possible. So yeah, one or many models, and once you see them, you'll go, oh, I can use that straight away. One of them, you might think, oh, yeah, I don't know where I'd use that, but we encourage you to use obviously as much as you can. Sharon's dropping off now. Thank you very much, Sharon. I don't know if she's already gone. Oh, no, I can still see she's on. Thank you. And yeah, so any last questions then before we close off?
No, that's everything from me. Thank you very much. That was really well. Really useful.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jazz. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you on the course. Ping us a message and be part of this exciting journey.
I think that was very good, Howard, and very well managed by both of you, if I may say so.
Thank you very much. And Bob, yeah, do you know what? If you come in March, you will see, this brick come to life and how powerful this is and how different it is. We've all worked in IT a long time, between you, Bob, myself, and David. That's a lot of years. I won't add them all up, but it's different, and it's needed. Value has to be, part of it. I say there's two things we'll never hear in a boardroom. One is, we want our systems to be less secure. You're never going to hear that in any boardroom. And the other one is, we want less value or success or ROI out of our projects and programs. No one's ever going to really say that, right? Because it just doesn't exist. So they're two things that you're probably never going to hear. And if you have heard it, I'd love to know where and when.
Thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you.
All right, thank you, guys. I'm gonna have to drop off. So
Brilliant.
bye-bye.
Cheers, Jazz. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, all. Thank you.